Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Good morning, good morning. My name is Andrea Simintov, and you are listening to Pull Up a Chair on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Let's go into our romper room and see who's listening in. Wow. Okay, it's late at night. It's after midnight in both the U.S. and Canada. Hi, I'm so happy you're listening in. Boker Tov, Eretz Israel, so much to talk about. UK is listening in this morning, as is Germany, Spain, Brazil, and Nigeria. And I have a wink, a little inside information that we also have a listener or six listening in this morning from Tehran. So very nice. It's an honor to have you listening in. And that's it. So listen, tonight we have so much to cover. And I got to keep my eye on the clock here. You know, working from these home studios is a little bit, you're going to hear some real life sound, like my husband making coffee, the dog barking, my next door neighbor showering. We'll hear it all. So tonight begins the 8-day holiday, the commemorative Chag of Hanukkah. Hanukkah was 23 centuries ago, when we were under the rule of Alexander the Great, the greatest war that at least we can all connect to in this modern time, the story of the Maccabees and Hanukkah. We're going to talk a lot about Hanukkah today because we're going to go into it. But before we go to our first break, I want to say something politically incorrect from the start. Hanukkah has nothing to do with Christmas. It is not a Jewish Christmas. It is absolutely, the only correlation is that both of these holidays seem to fall in the chilly month of December. And if you hear that there's any connection, that any similarities, I promise you these are only PC platitudes, whether it is coming from your synagogues, your television stations, or your local Jewish community center, or your next door neighbor. No connection. Christians have Christmas and Jews have Hanukkah. My name is Andrea Simintov. Guess what? See you on the other side.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom, I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Okay, we're back. Wow. Everybody listen, the chat room is open. If you are listening to this, and you're not listening to this, later on via podcast, obviously if you're listening later on, you can't talk to me live. But anyway, the chat room is open. Send me your notes. A lot of very lively, exciting, passionate people sharing their thoughts, sharing their love for Eretz Israel, sharing their intellect. And just join the conversation. Let me know where you are listening in from. Okay, so tonight begins the holiday of Hanukkah, and emphasis on the Ch. And so first of all, on a fun note, a little bit of not a humorous note, but if you want like a really good recipe for potato pancakes, latkes, is that what we call them? Drop me a note, Andrea at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. I will send you my favorite latke recipe. Really, it's coming from my forthcoming cookbook called Cooking for Morons. It is easy, easy. If it's hard, I don't do it. Okay, so one of the things is a lot of misinformation about Hanukkah. Again, as I mentioned, it is not the Jewish Christmas. There is absolutely no correlation. So any of you who are attending lectures, ecumenical lectures, brotherhood lectures, that say, let's find the common theme, let me help you with that. There is none, except we don't even have those ugly sweaters. If you are Christian, somebody has to go into get into the ugly sweater campaign and stop it. No more reindeer sweaters. So what is the story of Hanukkah that happens to fall? It's the Jewish month, the Hebrew month of Kislev. And so centuries and centuries ago, there was a terrible war. A group of Jews, the Maccabees, stood up against the Greek Empire that had forbidden Jews to practice their religion. But worse, it's very funny. Martyrdom comes in different forms. And for some reason, people like martyrs who die. Martyrs who die, who are held up on stakes and burned alive and crucified, seem to get very good press. So the Greeks were very clever. Those kind of martyrs, they didn't need those Jews getting that kind of press. So what they did was, here's where Christmas comes into. Here's where the connection is. What they decided to do was carve out Judaism, Yiddishkeit, we say. They tried to make it as accessible to everybody, not special, but as special as anything else, as ordinary as anything else. Again, they didn't say, oh, we're outlawing Judaism. They're saying, your practices, you have to be more Greek. Be more Greek. And, Greek Jews, how do we say? We say, I'm Jewish American, Italian American, Afro American. You might be a Jewish Greek or more than a Greek Jew. And what they did was they said, let's take that Torah of yours and let's take it out of the synagogue and let's put it on the shelves of the libraries. Yes, your Torah. Let's put it alongside of the Bhagavad Gita. Let's put it alongside of the Quran. Let's put it alongside of the New Testament. And so everybody can choose, everybody can read. It was really too much to bear. Of course, I'm making it very, very minimal. The Maccabees were a group of Jews, holy Jews. Again, there were many who said, do not rock it. Do not rock the boat. Isn't that the saying that they say in America? But they said, no, this is not okay. They said, remember the Greek ideal, as a matter of fact, I hope nobody with delicate sentiments are listening in. The Greek ideal, the body worship, forbade circumcision. Circumcision is the hallmark of commitment to our faith. It's a sign of Abraham. And so when you take away bris milah from Jews, when you take away Sabbath from Jews, when you take away kashrut, keeping kosher from Jews, and saying, be Jewish, but not Jews, this was too much. Never, my friends, believe that a handful of dedicated people can't change the world. Inspired by faith, they can. The Maccabees did it, and so can we. Hanukkah is all about light. But what was the miracle? For those of you who, I'm going to really give it in a nutshell, the Holy Temple was destroyed, and when the Maccabees finally broke through to the Holy Temple, there was nothing left except they found a vial of oil. A little vial of oil, the oil that was used to light the great menorah, to spread the light through the darkness. And they say, well, because they found this and they lit the light, and the light stayed lit for 8 days and 8 nights. Here is the miracle. Well, you know what? Very interesting, but we have a problem. We got a problem. What's the miracle the first day? They found the oil, they opened it up, it was pure, it was not at all tainted. There was no miracle in finding in lighting it and it staying lit for the first 24 hours. So the miracle should technically be days 2 to 8, right? But the miracle was that undefiled, they even found that one little cruise of oil, one uncrewed cruise. There's no reason that anything would have survived. But within it, why did they even search? Why didn't they walk and they say, whoa, nothing in here for us, boys. Let's get the heck out of here, okay? But they searched. Their faith said to them, there are miracles to be found. I don't know that they were necessarily searching for oil, but they knew that something remains. The way all of us on our days of the greatest despair have to understand that there always are miracles, but that's only when there's faith. You know, there were times when other people really would have given up. I cannot imagine. I don't even want to go there to imagine what it would have been to have lived during the Crusades, the Spanish expulsion, or even by virtue of being only 65 years old, I missed the Holocaust. But somehow, Jews don't sit around and weep. It's not a Jewish thing. We gather together and we believe in the power of that human spirit. You know, from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu and that bush that burned and was not consumed to the days of the Maccabees and that single cruise of oil. Judaism we have always been what we call that Ner Tamid, the eternal light. No power on earth can destroy us. Tell you something very cute here. Some people, I'll tell this to my husband. He's very, say, oh, well, it's cute. It's, as he says, it's shtiklach. Okay, it's not shtiklach. Ronnie, if you're listening in. There was an argument, and it's been throughout, the writings, Jewish writings. Wait, I'm scratching my ear, pulling off the headset, okay? Why do we light one candle, and then the next night light 2 candles, and then 3 candles? There are those who said, maybe it should be opposite. We should light the 8 candles to signify the miracle, and then each night reduce, then 7 candles, then 6 candles, then 5 candles. Wouldn't that be more telling? Indeed, more telling and more consistent with the miracle itself. Well, there certainly is an argument to be said for that. But you know what? It's not Jewish. We don't reduce. We grow. We grow in holiness. We grow in hope. We grow in belief. We grow in faith. So even though it might scientifically be more consistent, that's not the way we do it. There's a law about Hanukkah that I find very, 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 very interesting. Say you don't have the money to buy Hanukkah candles. You only have one light. And it's Friday afternoon. I have to light candles for Shabbos. What am I supposed to do? Light a Shabbos candle or a Hanukkah candle? It can't be both. So logic says, well, we should light it as a Hanukkah candle. After all, Hanukkah only comes once a year, and there's no law that says you have to sell or borrow to light lights for Shabbos. And yet, there's a law that says if you don't have Hanukkah candles, you should sell something to get those candles. But if faced with such a choice, guess what? You light the Shabbos light. Why? Because Maimonides, and Maimon says, the Shabbat light takes priority because it symbolizes Shalom Bayit, domestic peace. Great is the peace, because the entire Torah was written in order to give mankind peace. And so consider this. Hanukkah commemorates one of the greatest military victories in Jewish history. Indeed, yet Jewish law rules that if we only have one candle, the Shabbos light takes precedence, because in Judaism, the greatest military victory takes second place to having a home that's holy and together. So we have to ask this question. Why, of all these ancient civilizations, are we today doing radio shows and alive? Why are we here? Because we value the home more than the battlefield, marriage more than military grandeur, children more than generals. Peace matters more to our ancestors than the greatest military victories in the world. Guess what? I'll see you on the other side.
Shalom, everybody. Making a difference often takes just one moment and one person at a time. I am Orly Benny Davis, your show host on Israel News Talk Radios from Jerusalem with Love. You'll be hearing people talking about politics, religion, social issues, and making a better tomorrow. Join me, Orly Benny Davis, for God and Country. From Jerusalem with Love.
Wednesdays on Israel News Talk Radio.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Okie doke. All right, going through these notes here. I'm back. This is Andrea Simantov. Pull up a chair, IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. I don't want to go into details, but listen, keep your computer speakers on. Stay tuned to Israel News Talk Radio. Not just today, every day, of course, but interesting stuff. A lot of rumors abounding coming out of Tehran. That's all I'm going to say. Keep tuned. If there's something you need to know, guess what? We'll tell it to you first. There's something that I apparently needed to know, according to my husband this morning. And he said to me, 70,000 Israelis either are visiting the United Arab Emirates now or are planning to, have booked their tickets. I have friends that are actually in the UAE right now. They're sending up pictures. And while it's certainly fascinating, and listen, I'm one to vote and always fall on the side of peace, but it's just not on my bucket list to go. I mean, I see the opulence, I see the beauty, but there's something that seems a little bit artificial and not so real. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. It's very nice, but there's a lot of other places I'd like to visit first. Just be nice to us people. So just to kind of recap where we were just a moment ago, and that is, in celebrating Hanukkah tonight, when we light those candles, and remember, we light them for the world to see, because regardless of how many people still profess to loathe Jews, we are in a place today that we can, with chutzpah, with moxie, with pride, light our candles for the world to see as it was always intended, not in secret, not behind closed doors, not in a manner so as not to appear too Jewish. Spread the light. That's the most amazing thing about, lighting a candle. When you light a candle, very often, if I take something from one supply and I have it, HALVE, I have it, generally I'm diminishing the original source. It's the complete opposite with light. When we take light from one source and we light an additional wick, and then we light a third wick and a 30th wick and a 1,000,000th wick, we don't diminish anything. We only increase. So in celebrating Hanukkah, my friends, give a thought. Spare an idea for the real victory, which was not military, but spiritual. We are people who always have valued marriage, the home, peace between husband and wife, and above the highest glory on the battlefield. As much as I love Civil War history, it doesn't hold a candle to who the true heroes are, the men that go to work each day and come home resisting temptations, the women who raise children and keep homes and have immeasurable patience and bring both the beauty and the calm and the spirit and the laughter to this world. Indeed, in Judaism, the light of peace takes precedence over the light of war. Okay, I want to tell you a little funny story, little humorous, a little humorous story, because I'm supposed to be funny here, huh, Andrea? Yuck. True story. This story has to be, I'll tell you what year the story took place. This story took place in 1982, just yesterday. What was that, 38 years ago? I was a new bride. I was probably pregnant. I was pregnant the entire decade of the 80s and the 90s. I was pregnant. I was nursing. I mean, I really was a walking procreator. And I was standing at a sink, at a stove in a little dingy kitchen, and I was cooking Hanukkah latkes, potato pancakes, from a recipe book, very famous recipe book. Many of you have it. It's called the Lubavitcher Cookbook. And I was cooking these and I was still slim in those days. This really was, talk about an omen. It was a sign of the future. And the recipe called for, it created 50 potato latkes. Oh, they were beautiful. And I laid them out on a plate with paper towels and the little crisp edges. You're all getting a little mouth watering in there. The smell of the frying onions and the oil and the rich potatoes. And it was beautiful. It was like a book. And as I'm standing and waiting for each batch to finish cooking, I was just nibbling on just a few, the ones that were like less attractive. 50 potato latkes later, I ate 48. I kid you not. I ate 48 potato latkes standing at a sink. It was at a stove, at an old gas stove. And I found the last two I put on a plate, and I brought it to the superintendent, and I said, here, enjoy some Jewish food. And my husband came home, and he found me lying face down on the couch, to which I professed it was pregnancy discomfort. Okay, so anyway, that's how good. So write to me, Andrea at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and I will send you my favorite 50 recipe potato latkes magic. All right, let's just see here. Anything else we want to talk about here? So as I said, the Hanukkah candles, they used to be lit outside, always outside the front door. And when you walk in Israel, it's beautiful. You walk in the ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods. It's crazy how these places just don't go blow up. And the menorahs are encased in glass, and it's absolutely beautiful. Go on and Google Jerusalem, Hanukkah, Jerusalem, or images of Jerusalem on Hanukkah. It's just so beautiful. And the Rebbe Lubavitch introduced this custom of lighting these giant menorahs in public places to bring back the original spirit for the day. Okay, let's get on to some modern, a little bit of modern news, a little bit. Oh yeah, okay. The vaccine is out there. Everybody's talking about it. A little bit sad. I just read that the U.S., correct me if I'm wrong, the U.S. just suffered its highest death toll came yesterday in one day from COVID. My gosh, people, there's not a restaurant that you need to be dining at. There's not a store. There's not a bathroom fixture that you need. You can hold on with the bare bulbs. You can hold on with eating another pot of pasta. You can hold out, wash your hands, wear your masks, stay home. Yes, indeed. Sometimes we feel that we're going mad. Please, our communal job is to live, to keep faith alive, to keep hope alive, to have a story to tell about how we persevered with faith and, please God, with humor, okay? In 1606, somebody sent this to me. In 1606, the Shakespeare Theater. Where was the Shakespeare Theater? I want to say it was in Avon, but I think that was the river, right? The river Avon. Okay, well, anyway, it was forced to close because of the plague. So what did Shakespeare do during the closure? He wrote King Lear. He wrote Macbeth. He wrote Antony and Cleopatra. Hey, guys, we have a lot of home time. Make miracles. All right. So that brings me to mind. So here, if anybody knows this kid, tell me. Apparently, a 13-year-old boy from Maryland was hospitalized. He has type 1 diabetes. Oh, he's from, do you know this place? Gaithersburg, Maryland. This boy's name is Drew Mendelow, and because I'm Jewish, I want to claim him as my own. So apparently he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in September, just this past September, shortly after his bar mitzvah. So he was hospitalized at the Children's National Hospital in Washington, and apparently he learned that there was not a one-size-fits-all solution to children who have this glucose deficiency, who can't really measure their regimens. And this is a kid who wants to live, wants to thrive, wants to do sports, wants to be out there. So what does he do? He developed his own. He used the skills he acquired, I kid you not, coding video games throughout the summer stay at home because he was locked in at house, he had to do, and he had to be socially distanced. So he used his time to create an app before he had even stepped foot outside of the hospital. You know, somebody sent me one of these memes of somebody, one of the skills that they learned during the lockdown was to push tea, to push beverages out of their nostrils. So here is a child who rose above that. So he worked closely with the hospital's care team and a nutritionist, an endocrinologist, and apparently his findings have been published and they're listed on both Google Play app and Apple app stores. This kid is a rock star, an absolute rock star. So we're going to see great things from Drew Mendelow. Drew Mendelow, I hope you listen to Pull Up a Chair with IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. And so now in the last minute before the break, because I don't want to give more time to this one, I don't know, those of you who follow it, a former the Israeli space security chief, the former one, Chaim Eshed. What did Chaim Eshed have to say? That apparently Israel has made contact with aliens, and they've been keeping it a secret so not to to rock the boat, and people can't handle it. But there's a lot. If you want to have the source article, write to me. That apparently he says he has nothing. His legacy has been written. He has nothing to be frightened about. It's not going to cost him professionally. He's giving you the facts. There's aliens out there. I'm telling you, most live in my neighborhood. See you on the other side.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is Shai Bentako, and each week I'll be webcasting to you from Judea, origin of the word Jew, a people besieged and beleaguered in every generation. Nazi Germany's but a memory, but in its place the world invented the phantom Palestinians as this generation's internationally authorized Jew killers. Tune in for a different slant on life in Israel, Phantom Nation, every Monday.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
And we're back. Andrea Simmentold, Pull Up a Chair on Israel News Talk Radio.com. Wow, last segment. So much to share, so little time. Many years ago, as many of you know, the show does, you do a show long enough and you kind of have the same listeners and you get notes from people. And especially during these days when I'm working in this home studio surrounded by my things, it becomes very, very personal. And I'm remembering, again, waxing nostalgic, remembering stuffing myself with latkes. But I also remember a day in the early 1970s. I was a teenager. I knew more than everybody in the world. I couldn't wait to, spread my wisdom, and as teenagers are wont to do. And I was out one night, and I was a musician. Anyway, I came home in a condition that I'm not proud of. Something that I probably wouldn't share with my children, but hey, let's talk to a billion strangers. And I remember I was with a cousin and we had both smoked some pot, and I came home and I was high. I was a good girl. And my father was having dinner at the kitchen table, having one of his Polish dinners. He was eating a baked potato with sour cream. And I was embarrassed. And so I started to talk to him. If you've ever been a little bit tipsy and trying to act like you're not tipsy, or ever been high and tried to pretend that you're not, if you're impaired in any way and try to be normal, you sound like an idiot. Even though I was impaired, what stands out to me, even 50 years later, 45 years later, was the pain in my father's eyes. I saw his pain, his fear, his sadness, his great, great disappointment. I say this to you because there's a wonderful story. I once went to a lecture by Rabbi Wein, and he said, when Yosef finds himself in the arms of Potiphar's wife, the wife of Potiphar, and he finds himself, but you know what? He knew that the moral choice was not to go into the arms of another man's wife. No, it wasn't like that. He was a man, Yosef. He was a handsome man. He was a desirable man, a man that people wanted. He was at that last moment of giving in, creating a sin with the wife of Potiphar when, it's a midrash, he looked up, and in the reflection of a window, he saw his father's face. And he was able to see the disappointment in the face of his father, Yaakov. That was one interpretation. There was another interpretation that as he was about to succumb to his passions, he closed his eyes and he envisioned the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. And there's 12 precious stones in there, each one representing a different tribe of Israel. And as he closed his eyes, about to succumb to the passions of that intimacy, he saw his stone was missing. He stepped out. He stepped away. Hanukkah, my friends, does not stand for pluralistic Judaism. It does not stand for concern for the environment or any of these other new false gods that are so invested in Western society to get today. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with supporting the environment. It has nothing to do with Hanukkah. The Hasmoneans fought against oppression, foreign oppression of Israel and paganism, and for Jewish sovereign independence and Torah observance. That is the story, and that is a battle that we are still waging today. The miracle of Hanukkah is an earned miracle. It didn't fall upon us. It was caged in normal events. There was no splitting of the Red Sea. There was something to be found. There was a battle to be won, and battles that injured. There's a rabbinical tradition that all of these miracles that appeared in the Bible were indeed built into nature. Later on they say, well, the reason it happened, the 7 days of creation, it really happened, but we don't know what a day really was. So it wasn't really 7 days. It could have been 7 billion years, blah, 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 blah. The inception of this process, but the later miracles, the miracles had to be earned by sacrifice and actions of we ourselves, the Jews. Direct defiance against wrongdoing, against paganism, against indeed evil. It's an important lesson for us today. I don't know about you, but I personally don't have the ability to purify the temple or light the golden menorah, the golden candelabra. But by lighting our own light, we've talked about this on this show before, so please go back over 3 years of archives and see when I mention this. When the Torah says God said, God reached, God took, it's not because so many of us say, well, we're kind of limited. So the Torah says, God reached, God's hand, because God's hand, we can't imagine what God really does. No. God's hand is the hand. God's voice is the voice. God's blessing is the blessing. What we say, what we touch, what we reach is God-ish. So by lighting a menorah, we get to celebrate our being created, B'Tselem Elokim, in his image. We get to do something God-ish. We can light that to the best of our ability. There's no excuse not to light the light. Okay, another point, critical point. Let me just check up, see what this engineer has to say to me. Oh, he's a genius. All right. Timing. Timing is everything. It's true in finance. If the Maccabees had if it had been a week later, a week earlier, a minute later, if they had walked through the rubble and not bent down, if somebody didn't need to tie his sandal, okay, they may not have found it. It's everything. Financially, timing is everything. Personal choices, national decisions, historically. And yet, the past is not necessarily the past. It's the is. Our ancestors engaged in the same struggles that we do today. Physical struggles, as well as spiritual. It's why I mentioned Yosef and Potiphar. The Avot, the characters in the Torah, are us. They're not beyond our ken. We're supposed to learn that what they struggle with is what we struggle with. So again, surrounded by enemies, sound familiar, boys and girls? Meant to destroy the Jewish state and faith, beset by substantial amounts of angry, crazy non-Hebrews, and we among ourselves wanting to become Greeks. They fought. The Maccabees fought enemies both outside and inside. Today, if this were today, thank goodness it was then. Today they'd be accused of war crimes. They'd have to go up against the tribunal. We'd be accused of aggression, becoming occupiers of a land that in truth belonged to them. But you know what? The timing was perfect. By current day standards, today there never could be a Hanukkah. It's not to say that hypocrisy and double dealing didn't exist in those days. Human nature hasn't changed significantly, boys and girls. Not since the days of Adam v'Chava, Adam and Eve were ousted from the Garden of Eden. However, with developing civilization, technology, we can spread a lot of different ideas, both true ideas and false ideas. Let's see where I want to go with this because we're running out of time. And, so when you spin the dreidels outside of Israel in Galut have different, nun shin, nes gadol hayahen, hey, and nes gadol have a shin for sham. A great miracle happened there. Interesting. Here in Israel, the shin is replaced with a pei. A great miracle happened here because The rabbis framed one of the blessings over the lights of Hanukkah as recognizing as events Bayamim Hahem in those days were Bazman Hazeh, in our time. It's all the same. We have to make sure that national errors and wrong policies that have been Bazman Hahem do not repeat themselves. Bazman Hazeh, in our current time. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay, well, I don't want to mention Obama in this. Okay. The recognition of Jerusalem in our lifetime as the capital of the state of Israel has been received. We know how the world can. Crazy, wrong, Arab world, Muslim world, non-Jewish world, politically correct world, secular Jewish world. That's not the problem. The problem is when Jews have a problem with our returning home. It's ours. Overlook the difficulties. Light your lights. Be proud of who you are. And remember, we're going to close with this before I say Shabbat Shalom. You already belong. You're already loved. You too must love.
Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. Just click the orange button at the top of the IsraelNewsTalkRadio.home page, log in as yourself or an anonymous guest, and join in on the fun. You'll meet other listeners from all over the world who listen to Israel News Talk Radio, and you can make new friends. Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. It's the closest you can get to being in the studio with us.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.